Hey, everyone. Hi, it's me, Eddie. I'm here live. We've been away last week, but we are back live again this week for the Erudition Network Interactive Black History. And I added this week Knowledge Session. Let me give a little bit of time for people to come on, but I'm going to keep on talking here. This week, it's been it's been an interesting week, and the things that we have seen in the news, the things that we are seeing happening in the nation, and even outside of this country. The Haitian president was assassinated. We had an Olympian who was, I guess, with a better word, disqualified from competing in the Olympics due to marijuana. We had a man in New Jersey who engaged in a racial tirade, and we're going to touch on that a little bit today in the session. But we're living in some crazy, crazy, crazy times. And I don't know in my short time of life that I've ever seen um, people so outright committed, I guess is the word I'm looking for, in what they want to do. And right now, right now, uh, there is no better time that I could think of um, than to have a program like this. I get on here, um, try to get on every week. We missed last week, and try to illuminate, teach, provide information from our past while lacing it at the same time um, in our current situations. I encourage people to communicate and get on and, ask questions. And in doing so, it is because I want us to have a better sense, an actual conversation. One of the things with history is that history can be very, very boring. And if you are if you are not attended to history, you will tend to look at it and go, I don't know if I really want to, you know, especially when it doesn't pertain completely or directly to you. Um, a lot of times when I talk to people outside of this program about history, a lot of them often tell me, I don't, you know, I don't know, if I really want to go into that type of history. And um, I understand and I get it. And this is one of the reasons why I try to do this program. For the few of you who are online right now, I thank you for coming on and joining us today, um, because we're nothing without your support and your help. Um, Recently, a couple of days ago, some good friends of mine, Mike and Phil on the Man Up program, did a men's uh, wellness check, health check, basically, to see how we were doing out there with brothers and communicating. And it was a very, very good show, and I really enjoyed um, hearing brothers talk about what they're going through as men. Um, that is something that we're going to touch on today. Um, as I said earlier, there was a situation in New Jersey where a white male had been harassing the public for the better part, I think they said, a decade. He had been going around and attacking people, damaging property, getting into arguments, making racial threats. And if it had me to start to think about how I wanted to approach the interactive session from here on out. And looking at what Mike them did the other night, I want to say to you all, I want you to interact if you choose to. And so I never even thought about it until Mike did it the other night. I am going to, in our chat, just as they did the other night, I'm going to drop uh, um, an invite link in our chat. And if you choose to come on during this program and come into the studio, we'll put you on. You can say what you want to say, talk about whatever you want to talk about as we go into this history. But I think that's a good way of allowing people to interact and feel like they are actually a part of this program. But let's get into what's actually going on here. So, as I said, this man had been harassing people. And I'm going to showcase this, and I want to apologize to anyone first about the language. But it is so important that we hear the beginning of this, and I'm not going to show the whole thing, the beginning of this, and then discuss why he felt he could make these statements, and then also the interaction that he had with these African Americans and why they felt they had to, and this is the thing that's controversial, to accept it, because this wasn't the first incident. So let's look at this.
I'm harassing you, you young fucking punk. What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? You know why? Touch him. You're gonna do nothing. Touch him. Touch him. Come here. Touch him, pedo. Put your hands on me again. Touch him. Twice. Touch him. Twice. Touch him. And his name is Brandon. Pedo. Fucking monkey. Yo, you want to know why I'm going after him? I don't care. I don't give a shit. So why are you here? I don't give a shit. So why are you here? I don't give a shit. Then get the fuck out of here then. I don't give a shit. Put your hands on me one more time. Oh, you put your hands on me. Come close to me. Come close to me. Right there. I know, right there. That's right there. The rolling jerseys, back up. Come close. Back up. Keep backing up. Back up. Don't touch me. Keep backing up. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Pedo, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Fucking nigger. Fucking bastard. That's right. Yeah. My parents are both dead. Yeah, right. My parents are both dead too. And what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Nothing. What you gonna do? Nothing. All what you do is harass all people. That's all you know how to do. These motherfuckers are taking our fucking money. I don't give a shit. Well then shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up, monkey. White monkey. Motherfucker. You're right. Get the fuck out of here. You can't do shit. Touch him. Touch him. That's all I want you to do. Touch him. Shoot up for you. Touch him. That's all I want you to do. Touch him. I know better. Oh, good, you know better. Get the fuck out of here. I got you 3 times. Touch him. I don't give a shit. Don't worry. I don't give a shit about you. That's called assault. Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to wait for the cops to show up. And that's called assault. Yes. Wait for them to come here. Wait for them. We will. Yes. Keep waiting. I am. You walk on someone's property. This isn't their property, you dumb fuck. You dumb fuck. This is their house. They don't know this is common ground. You dumb, ignorant nigger. They have rights over this property. No, they don't. Yes.
So I'm not going to show all the rest of that. It got pretty bad, and I'm sure some of you have seen it. We are living in a time that we haven't seen in quite. It's like we're rekindling an idea here of racism, and people have decided that we don't care that you see us as racist. We don't care that we make these statements and we do these things. And at the same time, we're being told that we should not discuss racism, violations. We're being told with things like critical Black theory, we're being told with history being taught in the schools, that we shouldn't be doing this. This is no longer an issue. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, it's not. That's not the truth. I'm going to touch on a couple of stories here, and I want you. Some of you may know them because but I want to talk about some things here and the boldness of white supremacy and the history of it and why we have to be on guard for it. Most of us know in history the Montgomery bus boycott. We know that it was led by Dr. King. We know about Rosa Parks, and we know what they teach us in school. Rosa Parks was tired one day coming off work. She didn't want to get up, and she didn't want to give her seat to a white man or go to the back of the bus. Or how many different ways that this myth is told. Some of the more influence, more people who actually know that Rosa Parks was a member of the NAACP, and that she had some connections in the community. But this is what you don't know. You don't know that Rosa Parks, when asked what she was thinking that day, she mentioned Emmett Till. She said, I was sitting there and I was thinking about Emmett Till because it had been painful for her to ride the bus. They tell us that this was a plan and it had been hatched. But Rosa, being honest about it, said, I was thinking about Emmett Till and I was thinking about my experiences on dealing with this bus. I'm going to tell you something about the bus system in Montgomery that they don't tell you. We all believe that meant that somebody had to get up and then it was like an equal swap, right? The bus was, the guy got on, there was a seat. Hey, I don't have any more seats. Make the black person get up. That wasn't actually the case. In fact, the way that the discrimination and the segregation that went on in Montgomery at the time, to show you how bad and why I'm making this point about white supremacy, if it goes unchecked, is that it may have started with buses full get up. But did you know that blacks, when they went on the buses in Montgomery and in other places in the South, they got on the bus in the front, they paid their fare. This is going to sound crazy. And they had to walk off that bus and go to the back door to get on the bus. Yeah, I said that. You had to get on the bus, pay your fare, walk off, and go to the back. Well, Rosa Parks in an interview said that many times when blacks did that, the bus driver drove off, took your money, and drove off. And even when you got on in the back, it wasn't an equal swap. The bus is full. If a white person got on the bus and there was a seat that they wanted, every black person in that row had to get up. And sometimes the bus driver would tell all of the black folks to get up. That is how it went unchecked. And so when blacks got tired of the bus system, because you think about how often they were ripping them off, making money, right? And doing what they were doing, and they were getting away with it. The police allowed it. The White Citizens Council allowed it. It wasn't just the fact that we were degrading you, as you saw the man in the video before, calling that man out of his name. I'm going to take an institutional, systemic racist stance by using the police, the system against you. He told that black man in the video that we had to unfortunately watch, that I have you touching me 3 or 4 times, even though he was the aggressor. And then later he said that the police aren't going to do anything for you because they're my people. This is what we're dealing with here. And because we don't know our history as well as we should, we are getting to a point right now where we are becoming blind. They used to call it what they call it when you smell a smell and you get in the smell over time, you become nose blind to it. You become accepting of it. You become a part of the system. The system cannot work if you are not a cog in it. That takes us to another incident. I was reading recently about Adam Clayton Powell, who was a congressman and who was a civil rights icon, who was a man of God, was a preacher. And I was reading recently about an incident that happened with Adam Clayton Powell, that in the cafeteria of Congress, because Adam was a black man. He didn't look black. If you ever seen a picture of Adam Clayton Powell, he could pass for white. And as a matter of fact, when he was going to university at Colgate University, he actually did pass for white. But Adam was also affluent. His father was the pastor of the largest church in Harlem. They had over 1,000 members. His father took that church over when Adam was born. So Adam was born into money and affluency in a way that many blacks in Harlem did not have. But it also made him see, he was also taught as a man of God that to be a servant, right? To help. So getting back to the story, he goes into Congress. At his first time he goes down in the cafeteria, the master at arms in the cafeteria tells him, N-word, where are you going? So Adam says, I'm coming to eat. And the man says, well, I don't know where you going to eat, but you're not coming in here, right? And so Adam was like, well, where am I supposed to eat, right? And he tells him, he says, well, all of the black folks like you who work for Congress, the porters and different things like that, they go down the road to a place. And I think he told him the man name was Dixie. He said, go find this man named Dixie, whatever, and he'll hook you up. Gave him a name of a black man. So Adam was like, I can't eat unless I got that man. He was like, yeah, that's who's gonna have to help you to get you to eat. So Adam leaves for about an hour or so. He comes back with a black man. Black man it looked like he's homeless, hair all messed up, no shirt, no shoes, right? And so Adam tells the master at arms, he says, hey, I'm back. And the man says, what, did you find the dude Dixie I told you to go look for? He tells him, no, this is Dixie. This man's name is Dixie. And I'm bringing him here so I can eat because I'm part of Congress and I need to be eating here. And if he's my pass to eat, then he gonna eat with me. And if he don't eat with me, I'm gonna tear this place down. And all hell broke loose. Why do I make that point? Adam Clayton Powell understood that, wait a minute, I got rights, I have authority here. And even at a time when they would beat you down, he stood his ground to assist them. He could have easily just accepted that and went to wherever that man told him to go and go eat there and been over, just another Negro that goes out there and go eat somewhere. But he did not do that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to start thinking a different way. When I changed the name of this program this evening, one of the things that I did it for was because I feel it's not just history, it's knowledge. We have to start thinking in a different way. And I don't know if we understand how much we have accepted into our way of thinking. Sometimes I go on people's shows and there are a couple of things that I throw out to people, and I don't know if they all catch it because I try to make it very clear to people. But I'm going to throw some of those terms out to us tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about, and you may have heard me say it before, is transduction. The term transduction. If you don't know what transduction is, that's fine. Most people never consider it, never think about it. But transduction is something that we as human beings do all the time. We take in stimuli, what we see, what we smell, what we hear, what we feel, and our brains interpret that and allow us to be able to perceive the world around us. That is what our senses are for. To transduce, to bring that information into us. And a lot of times we hear people on all sides say, well, I'm colorblind. I don't see color. I don't even know what color is. And so they lose the idea of the psychology of your senses, what they call Gestalt psychology, right? The idea that we are constantly perceiving things by their proximity, their similarity, their symmetry, right? We're constantly trying to determine in our minds working with our spirit, trying to understand how do things work? And over time, the body gets numb to it. It becomes conditioned to it, right? We start to see ourselves as a part of the world, and we don't even think about it. So how is that important, right? Again, this comes down to knowledge of self. It is very important because what we see and accept becomes a part of not only our reality, but the reality of the people who are next to us and the way they see and accept something. If I call you Negro and no one challenges it and it doesn't look like it's dissimilar, then he's going to assume that that is acceptable. If I treat you a certain way and follow you through the store and treat you as if you're different or something else, then the other person will, not everyone, who does not think or perceive the world differently is going to do the same. And so we fall into this idea of symmetry, closure, common fate, right? This idea that I guess this is the way, and we used to hear people say it all the time. It's the way it is. Some things will never change. That's just the way it is. And it's the challenge that Adam Clayton Powell, right? Thinking outside the box. It's hilarious, but it probably wasn't hilarious to those who are shocked to see something dissimilar. But he was willing to do that. He was willing to take that stance. When I give out a term, sometimes when I'm teaching or when I'm doing instruction, a lot of times I try to make it as clear as possible, but I also ask people to ask questions. I see Michael says, so they couldn't even walk through the bus. No, they couldn't even walk through the white people. That's a great point, Mike, because they were not allowed to walk through, to transgress through white people. You're not taught that. Very few people know that unless you lived it, unless you could testify to it. It is so hard to think about what our ancestors had to go through, but then look at what we're dealing with right now. Recently, within the day, I had a black man, I was in a discussion, and somebody, and this is gonna make some of y'all mad, but I don't care. Someone told me, they posted something about Jay-Z. And they were saying, man, you know, Jay-Z is such, he a billionaire, and he's this and he's that. And you know, they just went all in on Jay-Z, right? And I was like, I saw it, and a part of me said, no, Eddie, don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. Because when you say something, you have a tendency to tick people off and get them mad, right? So initially, I didn't say anything. But then I said, wait a minute. We got to stop, right? So I had to explain it to these folks that money don't mean happiness. Again, I want y'all to remember what we just talked about with Gestalt, right? Money don't mean happiness. We don't think about the obscure things that Jay-Z and just him, I'm not just picking on him, people have done, right? We don't think about when Jay-Z called Harry Belafonte a man who paid and made sure that Dr. King could get from one place to another on a private plane, sacrificed his own movie career, right? When he called that man a boy, when he said that we need to be using our wealth to help our people. We don't think about all the things that went on when they're using him to say you can be a drug dealer and then be a billionaire. We don't think about the people that these folks are promoting who tell a negative message. Now, do I believe in change? Do I believe that people can be better? Yes. But I do not celebrate affluence, money, at the cost of cultural integrity and mental prosperity. When we regulate ourselves, and that's what I told them, to doing that, we become sycophants. We become a part of that Gestalt psychology. We become a part of the idea of symmetry, similarity, following, proximity, not wanting to see outside of circular thinking. And when we do that as Black folks, it's always even more detrimental, because when we do that, we allow ourselves to be manipulated. Billions become more important than change. You know, I told somebody one time, a lot of our Black folks, and this is, again, this will make people mad. A lot of our Black folks put finance over change, whereas a lot of racist whites push change to gain finance. And if you don't get that, then you are going to be a part of a system that is going to push you down and mitigate you. And when people say, well, what is a system? Well, what is this system? Well, we see it every day. That man demonstrated it. I call the cops. I'll get people to come get you. Right? We saw what we talked about, Rosa. Take your money and drive off on you. And then when she decides she doesn't want to deal with it anymore, she's in the wrong. We live in a stratified society, and I don't think that there's any illusions about that. But another thing, we just talked about transduction and Gestalt. Let's talk about another term here. False consciousness. A lot of us, Black and white, live in this thing called false consciousness. And they hate to say this because it's Marxist. That's why I hear people say that's a Marxist thought. But it's the truth. We shape our consciousness based on the history that we know, based on what we hear. I basically went through that issue with Rosa Parks because I wanted you to understand something that maybe you never knew about the Montgomery bus boycott. Them Black folks wasn't just walking because they was tired of the racism. They had been ripping them off. They had been treating them worse and worse and worse and worse. When Rosa said, when they asked her, she said, my mind was on Emmett Till. How much is enough? See, you give a little, they take the whole thing. How much is enough? Because the greedy, they have no idea of what is enough. I'm going to take until there ain't nothing else to take no more. Sean Anthony said, don't let money change who you are and where you come from because you may not be able to return. Truth. You burn that bridge, you sell out your ideals, your soul, you're lost in a system. That's another word. That's that word. And a system that you can't get yourself out of. And before too long, you become numb to it. You become lost to it. As we said earlier, nose blind to it. You don't even recognize that it's going on because in your mind, this is normal. That when we ask, why do we challenge and why do we bring up these old things about supremacy and what people are going through? That is why. Step by step, inch by inch, you give and they take more. You give and they take more. And before too long, what is left? What is left? I want us to do something tonight. There is I used to do these with guys I used to supervise. I would, every now and again, I would do these thought experiments, right? People don't like thought experiments because they say, man, it might be, you touching on some things. But I was recently reading Pastor Rachel's book on fighting, spiritual wars. And he was talking about the spirit. Now, I know that some of you all are not church-born folks and whatever, but I want you to think about something here. There was an experiment, right? A thought experiment in which it's called I think they call it the floating man. It's called the falling man. But what that thought experiment was designed for the highfalutin high thinking, was to give you a sense of self-awareness. And I'm going to do that tonight. I want you to think about something. In their experiment, they wanted you to lay there to think about that you have no connection with any of your senses: eyes, touch, smell, anything, nothing, right? And that you're just there. And the question is, even though you're there with nothing to suggest that you're in time, space, or anything, would you have a sense of self without the ability to reach out to your limbs, reach out to in any of your senses? If you were to lose your senses right now and everything went black, would you still be you? Would your mind working, but nothing that could bring in any new information? Would you still be you? And that's my question for you. That's the thought experiment. Ask yourself that. Would you still have the thoughts you have? Would you still have your perception of race? Would you still have the perception of time? Even though you can't see, touch, smell, feel anything. What do y'all think? And please feel free, if you, like I said, if you want to come onto the show and speak. I think I got somebody coming on here right now. We could do that. So let's do that. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
I've been watching your channel for a little bit.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
I appreciate that.
Even my cat's watching it.
You have a question?
What inspired you to do this?
Heather, we need to teach our history. And I mean our history, I mean collectively. We need to teach our history so that we all can come together better. We need to stop hiding our history. We need to stop telling it, in a stratified, fraction-sized mentality. So that's why we do what we do.
I really enjoy learning about history because in school, they never taught me about any of this.
And my sons would agree with you 100%, because I vet a lot of things with my sons, and I've watched over the years people not teach. The one person I talked to today, we're talking about the Rosa Parks thing. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to share it tonight. He didn't know that. He didn't know that that's how the bus system worked in Montgomery, because that's never in any history books, and it's never been a concern of anybody to even really go into.
We read this book called Stella by Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
It involved the KKK and that, but that was the only reason we ever learned about the KKK. If we didn't read that book, we would have never learned about that until probably high school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, if you watch this channel, we're going to tell you, if you go watch even some of our old episodes, we spent a lot of time talking about the birth of the Klan and how that happened and what went down with that. And I appreciate you taking the step. You actually are the first person other than my family to be on, to actually come on Erudition. And so that deserves a hand clap. A lot of people, I have one person that I've told it I wanted to wait for him to come on, but a lot of people come on, then they don't. So I appreciate you, coming on and making these points. I really do. And please keep watching the channel. Keep watching the channel.
I will.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Thanks. I appreciate Heather coming on here. And I was just about to say, hey, I'm open to all of you all coming on and sharing some thought. I really appreciate that she came on and said, what she did about the program, because we really do try to give you all something that you have not had before. Getting back to what we were talking about, though, she made a very interesting point that goes along with what we were just talking about. With the thought experiment, has anybody even tried to follow that thought experiment that I gave you in chat or whatever? One of the things I thought that's interesting about ever since this thought experiment, and it's kind of twisting it a little bit, is that when you think about the fact of where we are, who we are, what we're doing as a people, we really have to think about what would happen if we didn't have this. Do you think that it would make a difference? Do you think that it would matter? And so that's why I wanted to ask that question tonight and to go into that thought experiment tonight. I guess probably the better one, as I'm thinking on top of my head, the better one probably would have been another one was proposed by Frank Jackson. And I want you to think about this too whenever you're arguing about people who say that they're colorblind. There's a thought experiment by a sociologist, Frank Jackson, and what they're talking about, he's a very intelligent man. It talks about this woman named Mary, right? And I want you to think about Mary as a person who is an super intelligent scientist, knows a lot, specializes in multiple sciences. But Mary has spent most of her life, if not all of her life, completely in a room that is black and white, devoid of color. Everything she sees is in black and white. She can look out on the world, but it's all black and white. She has no idea of any other color other than black and white. And everything that is that Mary does know, but she doesn't see. She's isolated in this room and she doesn't see color. But Mary can tell you why the sky is blue. Mary can tell you why the cones and how the cones and your rods in your eyes work. She could describe the nervous system. She could tell you why you see color. She could tell you everything about the science and the makeup and the understanding of color. But she's never seen it. And the thought experiment says, well, what if Mary was taken out of that room and then put into the modern world? Do you think that Mary would be surprised by things outside of her understanding of color? Do you think she can learn anything other than what she thinks she already knows about color? This is an important thought experiment too, because you have to ask yourself this question here. Hold on, let's see what Tyson had to say. What do you think makes people not want to agree on factual history? We aren't blaming people today for their ancestors' deeds. Just agree that it's happened as it did without sugarcoating it. I think we need to talk about it. But I also think, my brother, that we have to start to tell ourselves we got to be smarter, right? Mike said Mary's head would explode. Yes. But I want you to think deeper than that. What do you think Mary would say if she saw a white man who everybody was black and white to her, right? What would you think Mary would say if she saw a white man or a black man being racist due to a color that she has broken down on a scientific level and says, hey, it's just something the way we see things, how we bend light. And you are discriminating against that person based on this issue that is a natural occurrence, a natural phenomenon. I'll even go further with that. When Mary, right, will say, hey, what sensation are you getting from the change of color? How is that color changing your life? We have to think like that because we have so many people who will tell us, I know very well what it means, what black people go through. because I've read about critical race theory. I've read about racism. I've went to school. I did whatever, and I know. But they ain't lived to see outside of that closed thought bubble. They haven't seen or felt what you feel when you walk through a store, somebody follows you, or the fear you get when you grab your wheel because you see a policeman turn his lights on behind you and you don't know if he's stopping your car or somebody else, or the fear that grips you when you hear gunshots outside your house and realize your kids are sitting on the front porch. Even though you know police are in the area, it provides no peace to you. Now, said color is just a color. It doesn't change how nice you are, how bad you are. Absolutely. But incorrect. Because again, what do we think here? I understand exactly what you're saying, Daniel. You're saying that color shouldn't change anything, but it does. Because human beings have been conditioned to see color. Even when they lie. Even when they say, I don't see it. Lack of color. You do see it. And people are conditioned. And unless you break out of that condition and say, hey man, this bitch is nonsense. This makes no sense to me. I'm not gonna treat nobody differently because they're darker skinned, lighter skinned. But we have found ourselves in a situation where a lot of people, they accept that. They accept it, they live it. And then it goes again to what I said earlier, right? It changes your consciousness. So that's what we're talking about tonight. How it changes your consciousness, your false consciousness. Because all you have is a sense, right, of self. If I stripped all your senses away from you, as we said in that first experiment, and I was just a spirit, I'm still myself. I'm still myself. But we are shaped by how people perceive us, how they interact with us, how we feel, right? What we hear, what we see. It goes back to that transduction. Now it affects how we think. These are not complex terms. Those scientists and knowledgeable men and women would try to tell you that they are complex terms. They are not. We're explaining them tonight in a very, I hope, in a very, very clear-cut way. Over the last week, I've posted different things on my personal Facebook page, asking questions and throwing things out here. And I told myself I'm going to post more because I want people to start thinking differently. Stop accepting. I make no connection whether someone is guilty or innocent. I just think that we don't treat people fairly because we are affected by our environment, what we feel, think, what we see, how it permeates our mind. That's why a black man driving a car that's really expensive is a source of alarm to somebody who has a conditioned racist mindset or implicitly racist mindset. But wait a minute. On the other side, a white man walking down the road and he frowns at a black man could be seen as a microaggression. Even though that man could be frowning because his stomach is hurt. But we are conditioned to accept the fact that the negative over the positive. And until we become like that like Powell, right? And say, wait a minute, I ain't gonna stand for this. I'm not gonna do that. Until we take the things that we can influence, we'll talk about that, get back to that Jay-Z thing. Until we can take the influence that we have, right? Until we can go out and say to ourselves, again, okay, that we place cultural integrity and mental prosperity over whatever wealth or privilege you give me. Until we can say, hey man, I'm him, he's me. That's my brother. Until we see ourselves as all the sons and daughters as a family, but not a complicit family, not a family that's trying to hurt each other. Tyson said, color may change how nice you are, but does in many cases determine how nice people are to others. Yes. I think me and you talked about that, my brother. That's that tribalism. See, this is not, let's not just for black. It's just me saying that white people are wrong. This is saying that we got to change the way we think. We got to change the way we think on all sides, because if we don't, boom, that's all we gonna do. I tell my sons, and I don't justify, I tell my sons, I say, you know, if you got a junior rookie cop who we don't know his situation, he goes to the job in the morning, the desk sergeant tells all of them, hey, we got an active shoot, we got people out here, man, 5 murders have happened, we haven't caught the suspect, he shot at cops or whatever, and this rookie cop is scared, right? Because he's human just like you. I'll tell you, a man who spent time in the military, we're still scared no matter what you put us through. We're human. So he gets in his car. He goes on patrol. He sees a black man. It's not a bad cop. He's not profiling. He sees a guy that matches the description of whatever the desk sergeant told him. He pulls that car over. But as he walks up, he hears this dude automatically getting mad. Man, I don't know what Now he's already scared. But he don't know the story of the black man in the car. The brother who worked his butt off to afford this car, and he feel like, man, I'm always stopped. He don't know that this man been stopped 5-6 times by other cops. But because our perceptions are so skewed by the conditioning that we go through, by that Gestalt psychology, and I want y'all to go look that up, by the idea of similarity, right? By the idea of symmetry, by that idea of a fate, a common fate. Something has to happen this way. It has to be this way because I have conditioned myself to believe it's going to be that way. So that man walks up to that car, and that black man is already mad, and he's scared. He's mad. And they collide. Boom. Somebody dies. It will not change until we all start to change the way we view things. Now, people say, Eddie, you preaching fantasy, man. A pipe dream. Tomorrowland. But that's not true. Because I'm going to tell you something. We used to live that way. There was a time, believe it or not, even in slavery, that black folks wasn't getting killed like that. You know why? Somebody tell me why. Why you think they weren't so quick to kill slaves during slavery? I'll give you a couple of seconds to type an answer up in here. But there was a time where that wasn't happening. As a matter of fact, I'll even go further. There was a time where a white man would imprison and kill a white man, for harming a black female or male. Why was that? Nobody. I'll tell you why. Because at that time, you had worth. You were property. You had a worth to you. Now, it wasn't a human worth. It was a financial, monetary worth, but it was a worth nonetheless. And because you had that worth, that white man will say, stop, just like his horse. Right? You ain't gonna harm my horse. You're not gonna steal it. You're not gonna steal my slave. They have a worth to me. Now, why we can't have a human worth for each other? Why can't we see each other for the worthiness that God blessed us with? Regina hit it. Slaves are property. So if the mentality of the country overall was like, hey, these slaves got worth, you ain't just gonna willy-nilly kill them like that, right? And we gonna protect them, their value under the law. But now, what's the worth? Now you have to see my worth as a human being by my character, by what I do, who I am. So, but that tells us that we can be better. Phil said we can't change will until we change ourselves. Absolutely. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is strength. Knowledge changes your false consciousness of yourself. You no longer see. Malcolm X is a primary example of that. I don't see myself as a thug because I'm more than that. And a lot of us, we got to look internally and understand, do we see ourselves as worthy? Dang, I agree. Environment definitely affects views on race. To be honest, I was racist when I was young, 3 to 4, because I was surrounded by white people. I'm not racist anymore, and I even support BLM. Virginia said, killing the black man, you're affecting production. That affects the master's money. Yes. Both of you make a very good, Daniel, you make a great point of conditions affecting how we see things. And then Regina, she makes a great point about how society can be changed. The history changes society. Before we close tonight, let's think about that. Right now, we have an issue where for a while, we had Asian Americans being attacked after COVID, because the rhetoric that was being pushed in the country was that it's an Asian flu. The Asians did it, right? But let's go back a little bit. Before that, we had, after 9/11, right? They said the Arabs did it. Them Arabs are evil, right? The Muslims are evil. And we all went after, there was this consistent, continual attack on Muslims. And there still are, there still is. But then people react to that. And they become violent and they do things. Before that, right, the Mexicans were coming back and forth. But then it became an issue of, hey, there's too many of them. Now they're an issue. Before that, black folks was property. They were protected. But wait a minute, now they free. Now they free. Now they're an issue. My point to you is that history changes our perspective, what we see. And then you have to ask yourself, who's dictating that? And don't become a part of that system. And I say that because let's think about this. In the 70s, in the 60s, right? Coming out of Vietnam, coming even out of World War II, actually, there was parts of it that stemmed even from that. Asians had problems. I don't care what Asian they were in America. It wasn't until around the late 70s, early 1980s when they started to become more accepted. And when I say accepted, I mean accepted by the white majority as intelligent, good thinkers, hard workers. They came over, they opened up business, they opened up shops, they were able to prosper. So now you have a generation or 2 generations of people who their parents came over with nothing, and they'll tell you came over with nothing and made something. And then they look, because I've seen it, and I'm gonna put evidence of it in the chat later. They look at the black man and black woman and say, well, why you ain't done nothing? I came over here with nothing. They don't think about the tax furlough that they had. They don't think about any of that. And so their children are told, you have to keep going, keep excelling. And they push them really hard. And a lot of them are so pearl clutching, feelings hurt right now because they told their children, just like the Cherokee, I'm going to go back in history. Jefferson told the Cherokee, become more civilized, take on slaves, act more white, and you could keep your land. You could be a part of us. But as soon as something happens, switcheroo. Andrew Jackson, the president, was a racist, anti-indigenous people. And he kicked them out their land, the Cherokee. A pandemic happens. And then they say, Asian. And then people start acting out and doing violent things. And then they turn to black people. Y'all know what it means to be discriminated against. Can you help us? Can you help us? Can you be on our side? Can you march with us? And we say, because black people, Pastor Ray, we've talked about this before, black people are some of the most supporting people. I don't care what you say. Overall, some of the most supporting people in history. They always side with you, march with you. Even when you're doing wrong, because literally we remember the Asians dragging black women across the floors and calling the police on black men, devoid of what they went through when they wanted us to be a part of them in the 70s and help them to get equal treatment under the law. And again, it's because we all clutching like crabs in a barrel to see who gonna be the dominant. And it's all, again, related to how we perceive things. Our loss of past experience, our idea that this has to be this way, the symmetry that we see, the similarities that we assume that this has to be this way. And then it goes back to what we started this whole thing at about almost an hour ago about transduction and conditioning. I live this way. I accept this fate. And many of us right now, the reason why they don't want you to teach critical black or critical race theory, or the reason why they don't want history taught in school, and the reason why nobody wants to talk about the tragedies and horrors of the past is because it's dissimilar. No, we got comfortable with teaching you this standard. We got it. Now we got to stay with that. Everybody was happy with that. Well, some were happy to think that everybody was happy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to answer some of these questions before we get out of here, but you just said, kill a black man. Yeah, we talked about that. Now the blacks are free. They are viewed as a threat to whites, making all the money that threaten them, having total power and control. Yep, just talked about that. You said Andrew Jackson was extremely racist. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Dustin, shows how far we have come in regard to racism. We can come so much farther, my brother, and we really should come further. But it takes a change in all of us. I think Philip said, we can't change the world until we change ourselves. Knowledge of ourselves. Again, we talk about Black history. Black history is American history. American history is world history. We all affect each other into a change. We all affect each other. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on our hour, and I'm so happy that all of you all who came on and who asked questions, please do me a favor. And it's still a word from my brother, Philip Hines. Please, please, please. If you only do it to support Erudition, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us to grow. Share this program with other folks out there in your peer group. Don't be afraid to share it. You want a discussion. We want a discussion. And we want to lead that discussion by giving different thoughts. Don't follow, do not be a sycophant or a conditioned entity to what is going on right now. Because as we saw what my brother said, please go like and subscribe. Amen to that, brother. In the Adam Clayton Powell story that we shared this hour, we have to break out of the condition. We have to understand that this is a time for change. We have to think in a way, as what I also said earlier, we got to think in a way that the racist thinks. I'm going to initiate change for prosperity. If we change, we all prosper, not just the few. Stop putting prosperity in front of change. Stop looking for affluence and money. Stop going to see, stop heroizing or making heroes out of those who are rich, who are not doing anything for you. Cultural integrity and mental prosperity. Spiritual elevation is what you should be looking for, because that will help others around you. And then even if they are looking for similarity, proximity, right? Even if they are looking for that symmetry, they will follow a positive example other than a negative example. They will be open to change. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on. And I appreciate that we finally had somebody to come on. And every week we're going to open that up. I thought that what Mike and Phil did was so awesome. Open that up for you to come on. I don't care. You want to come on and argue. Counterpoint. I like a good debate. But we look forward to seeing you next week. We are back at doing this. Subscribe. You all have a blessed evening. I am out of here. Have a good one.